Time.
Welcome to the North Platte Public Board of Education regular meeting. The purpose of the North Platte Public School District is to prepare all students to be productive, responsible citizens in a safe, caring, supportive learning environment. Our direction is to prepare every student for success through high-quality educational programs delivered by highly effective educators who use innovative research-based strategies in a safe, supportive environment and a collaborative with family, businesses, and community members. Sheila, can we do roll call?
Emily Garrick.
Present.
Matthew Peterson.
Present.
Angela Blasey.
Present.
Joanne Lundgren.
Present.
Skip Altick.
Present.
Cindy O'Connor.
Present. The Nebraska Open Meetings Act legislates the method in which public meetings are conducted. The information pertaining this act is posted in the boardroom. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, we have some special presentations today. Dogs of the Month.
Board, this month we have two students to recognize for Bulldog of the Month. We have River Johnson, Jaden Atterkirk. Now, River's out of town this evening with a family vacation, but we do have Jaden here tonight. So I'm going to introduce Jaden Atterkirk as one of our February Bulldogs of the Month.
Thank you. Hi.
Hello.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you want to do.
Okay. Well, during my high school career, I've played basketball every year. I've been in Key Club all 4 years. And I've also joined Med Club, and so I've had a lot of fun with those. And then when I go on to college, I want to go to Concordia University. I want to major in biology, and I want to go into pre-med so I can go into radiology. So,
Very cool. Cool. Thank you.
yeah,
Jaden, do you want to introduce your parents?
sure.
If I have to.
It's Travis and Janelle Outerkirk. So they're so
Parents, do you
back
want to stand up and say? No, just asking. Mom and dad.
Otherwise, I'm gonna- No, no.
There, that works. Thank you. All right.
Am I doing the picture? Sure.
I think,
I guess Tina's not.
yeah, Tina's not here, so I guess Sheila will do it.
Good
point.
with my super high camera.
They work, they work. Oh, I didn't know I was doing this.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay, got it.
And now we have a special student spotlight for North Platte High School Wrestling. Coach Hall, do you want to introduce people or?
Good evening, board. Right now I'm going to introduce Zara Blasey. She's one of the first North Platte High School state qualifiers. This year we qualified 3 girl wrestlers for the state tournament, and Zara happened to be one of them. So here she is.
Hey, you're kind of cute. Hey. So tell us about wrestling.
Okay, so one of the reasons I decided to do wrestling is because I asked like a ton of people if I should do it and they told me no. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm going to anyways because it was my senior year and I was like, what better way to, show some girl power. So I decided to do it and I had no idea what I was doing, like no experience at all, except for, a few little wrestling matches between my sister and I in our living room when we were younger. But so Coach Hall, Coach Little, and all the other coaches like taught me everything I needed to know and more. And then I didn't really have any goals or like achievements I wanted to, achieve. But I ended up going to like my first tournament and winning my weight class. And then the girls team won the tournament. And so it's kind of like a relief of like trying something new and like succeeding at it, like as a team in general. And then, and then I made it to state. I mean, I was not expecting to make it to state, but all it takes is little dedication and determination. And so, but unfortunately, my future does not consist of wrestling. I'm going to UNK. I have a full ride through the Carney Bound program. And then I'm gonna major in sports sciences and minor in psychology. So,
Congrats.
Our next wrestler is Ryan Fox. Ryan was a three-time state qualifier, three-time state medalist. I'll let him talk to you. Thanks.
Okay.
Hello.
Hi. Tell us about your wrestling career.
My freshman year wasn't too good. I had some fun my sophomore year. Then I had to start picking it up my junior year. Had to start leadering in the wrestling room. Then my senior year, my goal was to win it, but wasn't the outcome. But I still had really, really fun. And I'm committed to Southeast Community College down in Beatrice. I got a full ride, and that's where I'm going for a couple of years. I'm going to study nursing. So that's my future.
That's awesome. Congratulations. You had
Thank
a
you.
great year.
Thank you.
And then Zara and Ryan, we want to get a picture with you guys. Just like we did Jaden. Oh, yeah, we can talk about it. We can. I can. Yeah. Well, I don't- You wanna open? And students, you guys can leave if you want. You don't have to stay for the whole board meeting. Unless you want. It's very educational. We have our staff recognition and foundation report. Shay. I was like, I don't see Terry.
Yes, good evening, board. For those of you who do not know me, I'm Shay Caldwell. I'm the foundation board president. Terry is in a national conference with Education Foundation, so that's why you get me tonight. Do you want to take my picture?
I will. You're so pretty tonight.
So hopefully you were all able to attend Dancing with the Local Stars. It was an amazing event and we're excited to announce that it raised over $20,000. So thank you all for those of you who are able to attend and support this event. The champions were Officer Jeremiah Johnson, your very own North Platte High School resource officer, and Hannah Hokinson from Sandhill State Bank. Their choreographers were Crystal Miller and Talon Simpson from the Dance Factory. All of the couples did a remarkable job. And you also, including another district employee, Big Dan Kohler, was one of the participants, and he did a fantastic job. With these funds, the foundation will be able to fulfill that middle school scholarship that we had outstanding. We'll have additional resources for the Prepared to Learn Fund, and we are going to look at online scholarship software for next year to streamline that process. All right, time for a couple save the dates. July 28th and 29th will be Education After Hours and the Bulldog Golf Classic. Education After Hours is getting a new name, so stay tuned for that. And we will be announcing the distinguished alumni soon. One of them is currently out of the country doing some missions work, so we're waiting for her return before that announcement is made. And now the foundation would like to take a moment to recognize the February employees of the month. This recognition is done in collaboration with the district and business partners. Every month, Prairie Friends and Flowers donates a bouquet. And this month, American Family Insurance, Tim Malmcar Agency was our sponsor. So we would like to congratulate the outstanding contributions by these two employees, which did not go unnoticed. Our first recipient is Mrs. Morales, and since she's unable to be here tonight, she will be recognized at the April board meeting. And Ms. Harmony Wagner, would you please join me in recognizing Ms. Danielle Blake as our next recipient and share with the board why Ms. Blake is so deserving?
Hey, now last time I didn't have to do that.
Absolutely. Miss Blake, it goes above and beyond each day, not only to make physical education fun and exciting for our kids. She's transformed her gym into cosmic bowling. She plays Mario Kart with the kids, and she just builds upon, teaches them the skills, and then has a fun activity in the end to bring together all those skills. But not only that, in our building, you know, wherever she's needed, she pitches in. Sometimes we don't see the specials people out and about, and she's always there. Fun night, math and reading night, and then everywhere in the district, she coaches anything and everything they can talk her into. So well deserved.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry. 1, 2, 3.
Congratulations, and that's all from me.
Thank you for that. Superintendent reports, Dr. Rhodes.
Yes, thank you. Just a few items. President Blasey and I, we've been working on trying to coordinate a retreat with NASB and Marcia Herring. We did finally hear back this afternoon. And if you want to just jot down these dates and then just get back to me on if one of these three would work. Remember, we typically meet from 10 until 2, and we kind of have a working lunch in there as well. So the dates are Monday, April 3rd, Tuesday, April 11th, or Thursday, April 13th. As a reminder, the April board meeting is the 10th. So the 11th and 13th could make a rather long week, but those are the 3 dates she's available. If we can coordinate that between President Blasey and I, we'll get back in touch with Marcia and get it set up. If for some reason that doesn't work for our group, then we'll look at maybe some May or June dates that Marcia would be available. The other thing is that I've been working with Katie Coble on the second superintendent evaluation. If you remember, per statute, the first year the superintendent is evaluated twice. And so I am scheduling that evaluation for the May board meeting. And so you will receive about 10 days prior to that, you will receive an email from Katie with the website and the login information for you to go in. And then I'll do a self-eval as well. So probably beginning of May, you'll get that information. Received a letter, it's been several weeks ago, that I would like to read to the board. Dear Dr. Rhodes, please accept this communique as a confirmation of the pleasure received by hosting the staff and students of your school's cheer and dance team during their recent stay at our hotel in Grand Island. I and my team witnessed a group of students who were courteous and respectful to all those they encountered. It was a reflection of the standards set by North Platte Public Schools administration, the teachers and coaches that accompany your students, and the culture that exists within the North Platte Public Schools system. Please extend my gratitude to your staff and students for the courtesy extended to my hotel team. I look forward to hosting your school in the future. Warmest regards, Ray O'Connor, and Ray is the owner of Best Western Inn and Suites. Real testament to our students. And then I would like to congratulate and wish the very best of luck to our North Platte speech students who will be competing at the state speech meet in Kearney on Wednesday. We have Joseph Roeder, Levi Lunenborg, Jenna Hood, David Grandel, Cyrus Frazier, Pluto Extelm, Tuesday Allen, and Lindsay James. And again, Class A begins on Wednesday, so we wish them the best of luck. And that's all I have.
Okay, board comments.
All right, so I was able to visit Lake Elementary and I had a very good visit with Mrs. Goodnow. She was very complimentary of the professional development opportunities that we have for our district, both for administrators and teachers. In fact, she said she can't believe that there's people that wouldn't teach for us just based on the professional development that we offer our teachers. So it was a really good conversation. I learned a lot about her that I didn't know. And it was a good visit, got a tour of the school, and the old part of the school out there is very, very small. It was it was really, really interesting. So if you haven't been out there, it would be something I would highly recommend. I was able to be at the Best of the West speech meet. And I really just wanted to give a shout out to Mr. King. I thought that was neat that he incorporated the middle school into that speech tournament. And so for those middle schoolers that are coming into high school, just what a great experience for them to be able to be there amongst the high school students and just really see what a real tournament is like. There was one of the middle schoolers that I had a chance to visit with, and that was in fact the only speech meet that the middle school students were able to participate in this year. And so just really glad that they were given that opportunity. I attended the drama and dessert where the students that went to district speech and then consequently some of them that will be going to state this week gave their presentations. And I was able to attend the art open house at the Prairie Arts Center. And if you haven't had a chance to go over there, the art is on display throughout the month of March. So you still have a little bit of time to go over there. It was high school students, not only from North Platte High, but there were some students from around the area as well. There's some extremely talented young artists. It was really fun to look at the art. And then some of these kids that are freshmen, sophomores, I was just blown away by some of the things, the talent that I saw there. And it's not only paintings and drawings, but there's photography and sculptures and all types of art. So it was well worth the visit. And then of course, I can't get through the night without mentioning that Mary Poppins is happening this week. So if you haven't gotten your tickets yet, it should be a really good show. I was able to go and get a demonstration of the fly system that we'll be using. And I know that's giving Dr. Rhodes tremendous anxiety, but I think it will be a really good show. So I'm excited to get to see the students perform the whole show. I've seen bits and pieces, but I haven't seen the full show yet. So that'll be exciting.
I visited Madison Middle School on March 2nd. And it was a great visit, went into the classrooms like I really like doing, and everybody was busy. I also heard a girl sing a solo in the choir class, and Mrs. Valley told me that she had that girl when she was at Osgood, and that girl would never have gotten up and done that when she was like in first or second grade. So it shows how far that student has come. Saw some of the new doors that they put into Madison. Much nicer doors, and I assume those others are original from the early 60s when the building was built. And I had a nice visit with Mrs. Valley, and I talked to her about the new schedule that she has. And they're trying this year, and it's working, but it needs tweaking because like any new schedule that you have, you find some things could be changed. I also talked to her about the dean of students that will be in the building next year, and she's very excited and is already working with that person, planning for next year, which I thought was great. Now, as Joanne said, it's just great to get into those buildings and see what's going on. And the reason we are here is for the education of those students.
Anybody else? I got to go to Cody and McDonald this last month, and I was in shock. Both schools had teachers that were doing the pilot programs for their different curriculums, and Mrs. Ayers was working with phonics when I walked in and just had the kids coming up with the different sounds, and was just phenomenal and how those kids were learning, and I was just very impressed. And so they Cody School then had quite a few teachers that were, I mean, I think all of our teachers are phenomenal, so I guess that's just repeating myself all the time, but the little kids were walking down the halls with little bubbles, and that's how they kept quiet, and I couldn't hold my bubble very long, so I lost the contest. But we just have some great schools, and I'm just so glad to see all of us like getting out there into them. So
Angela, I just want to take 1 second too. I noticed that Dan was in the audience tonight, and Shay and Dan, I have to apologize that I did not make it to Dancing with the Stars, but I watched some of the video from the event, and I'm really glad that it raised so much money for our students. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
and Dan, you look great in a tutu. I mean, I'm just saying. Okay, committee reports. Joanne?
All right, so the Personnel, American Civic Curriculum, Student Services and Communication Subcommittee, we met on March 7th. I was present, Emily Garrick was present, Angela Blasey, Lindsay Douglas, Kevin Mills, Tina Smith, Stuart Simpson, Vicki Carlson, Brandy Busher, Matthew Velasquez, sorry, I don't want to, sorry. Maggie Butler and Dr. Todd Rhodes. Our meeting began at 7:58 a.m. We stated the purpose and direction, which Angela already did tonight. We had a report on Helping Hands, which we will be hearing, so I'm not going to talk a whole lot about that. Math standards adoption, we'll hear more about that later tonight. We had a staffing update from Mr. Mills, communication update from Tina. Just a little preview on that. She provided us information on rooms, which will be replacing Remind and Class Dojo next year. And rooms is something that has a little bit more there can be more oversight by the district. And it's going to be initiated with our summer activities. And we asked lots of questions about that, and I'm sure everyone will be hearing more about that later. And then we also had a report on the lighting in the Performing Arts Center, which we'll be talking about that a little bit more tonight. Reviewed some of the resignations and adjourned the meeting at 9:13 a.m.
Thanks. On March 9th, the Finance and Facilities Subcommittee met. We met at McDonald Elementary this month. As we've discussed at past meetings, we're kind of rotating which facilities we're going to meet at for our monthly meetings, which has been a nice addition to the committee. Present this month were Mr. Simpson, Dr. Rhodes, Cindy O'Connor, myself, Skip Altig, Lori Coburn, Jimmy Rhodes, and then Kim Flanders was present for a while we discussed the McDonald renovations. We discussed the purpose and direction of the school district, which we always do. And then we toured the McDonald. Both Skip and Cindy are new to the committee since we talked about the McDonald projects. We went through that again. And Stuart gave us a tour of what upgrades will be done this summer. And so I think the timeline is still being discussed, but we will make sure that the facility is ready for students by the time school starts in the fall. And then after we were done with the tour, activities director Jimmy Rhodes met with us, and he updated the finance committee on a feasibility study, which is taking place for adding a baseball program to the district with the addition of girls wrestling this year under Title IX, where we now have the ability to add another boys sport. Baseball is one that has been discussed for many years as something of interest in the district. And so right now it's important to note we're just in the early stages. The earliest we would be able to add anything, of course, would be the 2023-2024 school year. But Jimmy he's completed a survey with students, and there's been a lot of interest expressed by our students. And so at this point now, it's a discussion about feasibility of that program. We want to make sure that if we do add a program, it's going to be something that's going to be sustainable and will be here for the long term. So Stuart, of course, is crunching the numbers and looking at what that might look like. So we'll have more discussions on that. Then, as we always do, we discuss the budget and our QC Puff funds and what the bonds look like for that. Joanne mentioned we also had a discussion about the PAC lighting. Stuart gave us a very in-depth review of that bid, which we'll be discussing tonight as well. And so he kind of walked us through that and why it's necessary. And, one of the discussions we had is that PAC is used for so many more things than just our theater and music programs. And so it's 20 years old now, and it's taken some wear and tear. The other item we discussed was potential financial support for the tennis courts at Cody Park. There's been a committee that's been discussing some upgrades to those and what that might look like. And so we are discussing, Mr. Simpson and the city and Dr. Rhodes are discussing what it might look like for the district to have some sort of financial contribution. If we were to contribute, it would be for like an ongoing maintenance fund, similar to what has been discussed for the new renovated rec center. We discussed administrative salaries, and following our policy 1010, we've begun the process of reviewing and setting those administrative salaries. Stuart discussed the ESSERS 2 and 3 programs with us. We identified the remaining funds for ESSERS 2 and 3. We also had a lengthy discussion about legislation and perhaps the lack thereof that's going on right now in the unicameral. And then, as Joanne discussed, we also had the opportunity to review resignations. So we adjourned at 9:01. So 1 minute over Stuart's a lot of time, but we won't hold it against him.
Okay, now we have the consent agenda. Our adopted rules of parliamentary procedure, Robert rules, provide the consent agenda listing several items for approval by the board by a single motion. Most of the items listed under the consent agenda have gone through board subcommittee review and recommendation. Documentation concerning these items have been provided to all board members and the public in advance to assure extensive and thorough review. Items may be removed from the consent agenda at the request of any board member. Motion.
I would move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye. Reports, Helping Hands presentation, Brandy. Brandy and the crew.
Yeah, there's the whole crew with me. I'm not going to stay at the table very long. I just want to kind of give a little background and then I'm going to let these fine people present on the Helping Hands program. I just wanted to tell you kind of how we came to be with this Helping Hands program. We've identified in student services that we definitely have a shortage of people in the behavioral health field that work with juveniles in our community. So one of the things we discussed is how can we have give access to kids who maybe want to go into that field, give them access to come into our schools and have them work with some of our students and hopefully have them love it so much that when they go off and get their degree, they come back to North Platte and not only work with youth in our community, but maybe work inside our schools. So we partnered with the community college. Courtney Johnson is a professor out there who works with psychology students. And we asked her, do you have students that would be interested in coming and working with us? And so from there, I'll kind of let Delana talk a little bit about how that got going. So.
I'm Delana Humphreys and I'm the programming coordinator for Kids Club and now a supervisor for the Helping Hands program too. Brandy brought to me, she just needed a little extra help to get things going. So the flyers were created and out at Mid Plains and we posted a job online and then we held interviews and ended up hiring 6 college students, 3 of which already were employed at Kids Club. And went kind of through their schedules of their schooling and if they had another job or anything else to kind of see what would work for them when they would come into the school. And we created this schedule where we have 6 college students that go into each elementary school 1 to 2 times a week and see over 30 students. And they love it. And I just kind of, I don't know, supervise them. If they have anything with their schedule that doesn't work, they can't go in, then I'll communicate with that principal and let them know that changes. If we have more students from the principal that have referred them that they want to come in, then we'll get them added onto there and go with Maggie.
Good evening, board. I'm Maggie Butler. I work in student services under Brandy. So once we identified our staff, I helped kind of develop the programming that they do with the kids when they go in. And I'll pass these around when Matt is telling his experience. But so the college age students that go in, they help school staff with implementing behavior improvement plans that the students are already on when they've come into the program. The program itself is a tier 2 intervention. So we use Swiss data to identify kids who would benefit from the program. And the behaviors that they exhibit are attention seeking. So instead of them continuing the behavior with receiving negative attention, we want the intervention to promote positive attention. So some of what they do with the kids is each helper has a binder that they utilize when they go into the school. They have 2 charts that they can use with the kids. One of them helps students identify how they're feeling. Another one helps them identify a positive coping skill that they could utilize whenever they might feel like they are being triggered or about to, act out in a negative way. Another thing that, like I said, we want to focus on that positive attention with the students. They have a chart that is called Catch the Good. So whether it be, helping a student in class, staying on task with their work. They can fill out that sheet for the student, and then they'll get a little coin that says good job, and they get to carry it around with them for the day, turn it into the principal, and get a reward that they've identified they'd like to work toward. And then they get a copy of that chart to be able to take home to mom and dad and see the good that I've done throughout the week or month or however long that takes. And then just with them being kind of a bird's eye for kind of what's going on in the classroom, they are able to complete a behavior solutions assessment if they are there for a behavior incident or behavior referral for the student, and just kind of give, that outside perspective of what they saw kind of being that trigger for the child, for the student, and provide solutions moving forward. How can we avoid that negative behavior? And then the last thing they do is a daily log. So, how was the student throughout that time? Was there a behavior? How are their work habits, conduct, and then staff response? So I will bring these up so you guys can look at them as Matt is going to tell you his experience with the program.
My name is Matthew. So I've been with the Helping Hands program since the beginning of the year. I started off the year with 10 students that I worked with. I now work with 12. I work in a couple of different schools, so I get to see a lot of different climates. It's super fun. It really depends on what student you're working with, how you respond or how you work with them. So when we talked to the subcommittee, I explained there's some students that I have that are less energy. So we sit there and we'll just talk. There's more kids that need more emotional support. So we'll sit there and we'll talk about how school's going, how home's going, everything like that. There are other kids that are higher energy. So we'll go and run laps around the halls. I'm pretty young, so try to stay pretty fit, but it's super fun. It's really awesome getting to see the kids grow. I actually did not have the intention of working with kids the rest of my life in this aspect. And now I'm majoring in child psychology and social work. So hopes to come back and work for the school district at that point. But yeah, it's super awesome. The kids are really fun to work with. It's really awesome getting to see the different behaviors you can go through, but also the positive behaviors as well. And the way you can have an impact on students in the classroom, because we have had students graduate out of this program at this point in time. So it's really cool.
They might have questions.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
This could be for any one of you. How many students are currently in the Helping Hands program? I know, Matthew, you said you work with about 10 to 12. What's our total number count right now?
31.
Is every elementary represented in that 31?
Is it just elementary, or do we go into the middle school a little bit too?
Just elementary.
And so I'm sorry if I missed this, but is it all one-on-one, or do you do some group sessions as well?
So I work with one-on-one, and all of the mentees in this program do work one-on-one. But if there is no behavior or that student doesn't need essentially that one-on-one experience at that time, we can just sit in the classroom and just kind of be kind of an emotional support to them, just sitting there and just having them see us as that positive attention that they're getting. So.
Can you share, I know you shared briefly on this in our subcommittee meeting, but for the whole group, and this might be a question maybe for one of you gals, can you share a little bit about the application process for the mentors and the training that they receive and that side of things as well?
Sorry, I was supposed to say that. So for the training, we worked with local licensed mental health providers to provide trauma-informed care for all of the mentors. They also have received MANT training, which is a relationship building training. And as far as the application process goes, it was through Kids Club, so it's the district application process. And we identified students that were wanting to be in the education or behavioral health fields.
Can you talk a little bit about feedback you've received from teachers, building administrators, things like that? And kind of what impact they've seen it have on the students?
Yeah, so in terms of feedback from teachers and principals, it's, as far as I know, been nothing but positive. And actually, we've had principals seek out, referring more students to because they've seen the improvement in the kids that are in the program, just recently as last week. And then to praise Matt a little bit right before the meeting today, went in and just pulled like a sample of the 4 kids that he's been working with. And he, prior to the intervention, those students were averaging anywhere from 2 to 3 behaviors a month, some of them a couple a week, and he's cut their behaviors in half. Not just him, but in working with the program, some of them as little as, 1 behavior a month. So he's phenomenal and does a great job. All of the mentors, all of the helpers that are in the program have received very positive feedback from administration and staff. And then parents, yes, absolutely.
I just want to add, I ran into Courtney Johnson. I work out at the college, and so I ran into Courtney Johnson one day after you guys had come and presented at our subcommittee meeting, and she was really complimentary about the program too. So I think it's been a really good partnership between the college and the school. So really, and from my perspective, this is really a neat program. I'm really excited that you guys developed this and have implemented it, and especially that it's seen so much success.
We're excited to see it build and grow. So thank you.
We've had other colleges reach out to us and ask us about the program to see if it's something. McCook has reached out, and Kearney has reached out just to see if it's something that they could potentially do in their community. I think we're gaining some traction in the state too, and we're hearing a little bit more about it.
That's great.
Thank you.
Keep up the great work.
Thank you.
Staffing update, the roads.
So Mr. Mills traveled this afternoon up to Wayne, Nebraska. And he will be attending a job fair tomorrow at Wayne State College. So he did give me a report to kind of go through. Right now, as it stands right now in this state, when you comparatively speaking, if you look at last school year and the year prior, the amount of openings that we've had are less, and we certainly want that trend to continue. We do have some weeks left with this hiring season, so we don't know where we're going to be for sure. But late last week, we did. Mr. Mills was able to fill a library media position at the middle school level at Madison and Adams, as well as we had a kindergarten opening at McDonald Elementary as well. So those 2 positions were filled. The current positions that we have open, we have FCS at both Adams and the high school. Jefferson Elementary, we're looking for a 4th grade teacher. Madison Middle School, we're looking for an English language arts person. At the high school level, we're also looking for an ELA person. Science at the high school, and then guidance at the secondary level as well. We have either had interviews or have interviews upcoming that are scheduled that we feel like our goal this week would be to fill the FCS at Adams, the 4th grade at Jefferson, ELA at Madison, and the ELA at the high school. So, as I said, is in comparison to past years, that number right now is a little lower than what we've had in the past. We did recently, I just share this, I think we shared this at the subcommittee meeting. We recently were able to fill a music position. And the reason we were able to fill that music position is because our music teachers went out and recruited for the district. So, if you pay any attention to openings across the state, and I do, there are schools that have had music openings for 2 and 3 years. And I think it's a credit to our music program, to our music staff, that they're able to go out and talk to colleagues and get them to apply in this district. So, and the real disturbing thing with Mr. Mills is he thought Wayne was a long way away, and some of us happen to have degrees from Wayne State College. I happen to have 2 degrees from Wayne State. I am a Wildcat, Mr. Simpson.
I have 2 degrees.
Okay. The monthly financial and budget report. Mr. Simpson.
Thank you very much. Sheila is going to be bringing up the monthly financial report, and as she brings it up here, I'm going to talk about a few pages, and then we're going to focus on just where we stand overall with our that's the board. That's the wrong one. Nope. That's While she's getting it up, I'll sing a song and dance here. No, but we are 50% or halfway through the fiscal year for accounting purposes. Now, starting on Thursday, we're going to be heading into the fourth term. So a little bit different perspective from my side compared to our teacher's side. But overall, we'll be working toward getting through the remaining 6 months of the fiscal year for my purposes. As she's bringing it up here on the first page, we're going to leave it there, Sheila. Matt, you asked a question last month, which was a very good question. And so we researched it. Hopefully I didn't clutter it a lot, but we put in some enrollment comparisons from the last 5 years. Number one, just breaking it down by 9-12, 6-8, and K-5 enrollment. And when you look at it overall, obviously we are down enrollment, but when you start breaking it down to the various 3 areas that we look at, yes, we were down at our high school level, but also notice, please, in the K-5 level, we've increased 31 students overall this year from the start of the school year till now. So we tried to give you a perspective of obviously what we have to turn in at the end of the fiscal year based upon grade level, and then looking at our schools where they are. But then second of all, what's happening just overall? Where's the increases that we're seeing, or where are the changes we're seeing? So we're starting to see some younger students coming into the district at our K-5 level. So
Stuart, before you go off of that page, so how much of the 9-12 is affected? Is any of that affected by the early graduation rates?
Yeah, I think
if
it was last time Corey said there was like 65, 70 students that had early graduates, and then throughout the course of the year, they do complete other ones, or students are leaving. Dr. Rhodes and myself, as well as a few other people, receive IC updates about students leaving. And today I saw that we had a couple of students that were moving to a different state or country at that point in time. So we're seeing a lot of students transitioning right now. So that's maybe why a little bit higher number than we have before.
Have we been able to track through our Welcome Center those 31 new students? Do we know if any of that's due to the changes in our community and what we're looking at on the horizon? Are we seeing any of that yet?
Go ahead. I would say no, and not at this point in time. We didn't look at it that in depth, but then again, we weren't getting some stuff because I see transition to the cloud, and then all of a sudden we lost a few of our data that we get on a weekly basis to at least help us understand where students are going. So we haven't looked at that piece in depth. Dr. Rhodes, did you have anything?
Yeah, I think that's correct. We took a look at that several months ago. And I think what we're seeing right now is the workforce that is new to the community as it relates to, for instance, sustainable beef is right now they're kind of a mobile workforce. And so we do know that a lot of those workers they're staying in hotels and some of those areas. So I think what's really positive about that growth, I mean, if you look across and you compare that to 5 years ago, we were down 27 students at the K-5 level. And in fact, as recent as last year, we only grew by 3 students from that September date until the end of February. And this year we've grown 31. And it does not appear that that is attributed to what we think is going to be the economic boom in our community. And so, you know, I really believe that in the next few years, we will see the workforce bring families to the community. But these are more temporary workers right now. You know, they're moving a lot of dirt and doing some of those things. We're going to see that with the rail park as well.
Stuart, I just want to make sure I'm reading these numbers correctly on the 5-year enrollment trend charts here. So there's two totals. Is the first line of totals, is that beginning of the school year registration?
Yeah. So
Okay. And then
first,
the second one is like your second term or your second semester.
yeah,
February
the first one
registrations.
is what we officially report to the state
Okay.
for information. And then the second one is comparing our enrollment of the end of February for the 5 years that we have there so that you can get an idea. So I'm not pulling numbers from a January and we're trying to compare it to February. It's apples to apples, so to speak.
Got it. Yeah. So it looks like our maybe our early graduation numbers have been fairly consistent when you compare those two lines over the years. They
Right.
seem to drop by about the same amount every year. That's,
Right.
I just want to make sure
Right.
I was reading that correctly. Thank you.
Yes. Any other questions on enrollment? That is our key piece. I mean, obviously, as I heard everybody's comments, you know, it's about our students, what we're doing in various areas. And so I'm pleased to say that that's my first slide every time. And then we can move forward. If you could go to page 9, Sheila, it's the cash flow. It's sort of the chart. This is the chart that we're sitting at right now at the end of February. And for the most part, we're right on track where we have been in the past. I know it looks a little bit, it's going down a little bit quicker than where we've had been in the past. That's attributable to our grants. Right now we have about 1.6 million outstanding on our grants. And some of that is, I'm trying to figure it out, but I reached out to some people at NDE because I knew we had submitted some information on some various grants. So I thought I could get that back and I get back and said they're still trying to close out 21-22 financial information. So that puts a little bit of strain on North Platte Public Schools or any public school in the state of Nebraska trying to get their money from the grants. Everything's approved. It's just now we're trying to get that money coming back in as quickly as we can. So I wanted to make a note about that one. Then finally on page 7, so you go back a couple of them. So when we talk about this, and if you look at this is, we'll just say it's Stuart's sheet because I can quickly look at some information all the way across here. But if you look at the column that really addresses our cash and bank, which is the third from the right, right now we're sitting at 1.6. As you know, if you look on the report, we have about $2.5 to $3 million flowing through on payroll every month. Along with that, we did get our property taxes in today, and that's 1.7 million in addition to. So it's a cycle of trying to get the money in to then turning around and handling payroll during these next few months. And hopefully then we can get some grant dollars coming in to stem that tide. And then we all know that property taxes, for the most part, will be coming in May and June. And then August, because of payment of the first and second half of their taxes. Second, along with property taxes, we saw a large increase in our valuation, which then will not be reflected until we start getting some of these taxes in, which was our budget was built around that. So a lot of factors playing into where we're dealing with on cash flow. Any other questions? I appreciate the comments about enrollment and where we are.
Legislative update.
I'll go, and then I know Skip and Dr. Rhodes will jump in, but we're day 43, 47 days left. Priority bills, we're talking about it. I have to be into the legislature by tomorrow, and then Skip will make a comment when they could. Committee meetings are all done, and then after that, it's full on watching the legislature debate all day long. And so in that, the Education Committee finally heard a lot of bills today, which was abnormal for them in the past couple of weeks. So it was great to see a few more bills coming forward. But I was reading in the Lincoln Journal and a statement that they said, because we are watching a few of the senators doing and I can't think of the word, Skip, but they're stalling. Filibuster. Thank you. They're doing a filibuster, and they said because of these filibusters that are going on, 0 bills have been acted, and there's 135 bills sitting waiting to move on to general file. So when we make a comment about nothing's happening, nothing is happening. We're not seeing anything moving forward, and we want to see moving forward. We watched a lot of testimony today on 724, which is a praxis test, which as Dr. Rhodes just talked about in regards to recruitment of teachers. We need to get more teachers into our schools so we can educate our students. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Skip.
As Stuart said, we're almost halfway through the legislature for this time. It's a 90-day session, and we'll hit day 45 Wednesday. So it'll be halfway through. Also, tomorrow is the last day that any senators can put a priority on a bill. All of them have an opportunity to put a priority on a bill, which means that will be the first thing. Tomorrow's the last day they can do that, even though we have a lot of bills that are stuck in committees still at this time. A lot of education bills that we've talked about that are still out there that even haven't come to the floor yet. And actually nothing has really come to the floor, as Stuart talked about, because of the filibuster that's going on. And we're just gonna have to wait and see, because there are 2 big things the legislature must deal with this term. Number one is the budget, because it's in the Constitution. In the 90-day session, they have to set the budget. And the second is the passing of the constitutional amendment about a voter ID, because they will have elections coming up that they have to decide exactly what ID will be acceptable when you vote. Those will be the 2 top things they have to deal with, first of all, once they get through all of this. So what will happen in the next 45 days is going to be interesting, very interesting.
Okay, just thought I'd check. Okay, public comment. Public questions and comments may take place at this time in the agenda. Individuals who want to address the board must complete a guidelines for public comments form with the date, topic, addressing, name, address, and name of any organization you represent, and give it to the board clerk prior to the meeting. Sheila, do we have any? Okay, when called upon by the presiding officer, the individual shall proceed to the table and state their name and address. An individual may not exceed 5 minutes. The total time for all individuals who want to speak shall not exceed 30 minutes unless the majority vote of the board approves extending allotted time. This time for public comment shall not be used to address specific individuals, student discipline, or employee performance issues. Complaint and grievance processes are in place to deal with issues of this nature. Yeah.
Being at my first board meeting, I'm very impressed. One thing I want to make sure that we all know is how much encouragement really means something, you know. Even a custodian needs encouragement when there's times that they're trying to do something. So always remember that in the back of your head. But I wrote a letter to the editor about Dancing with the Stars experience, and so I wanted to read it to y'all. Afterthoughts on my Dancing with the Stars experience. To the North Platte Public School Foundation, I cannot thank you enough for nominating me. Your encouragement, enthusiasm, and your hard work with a smile did not go by unnoticed. My experience was over the top. Like Tom Petty said, it's good to be king, if just for a while. You made me feel like a king. To Jana and Sonia, my choreographer and my dance partner, we did it. The feedback I've received has been quite humbling. After weeks of hard work, they turned me into a dancer for a night, and I can't thank them enough. To the McDonald Elementary family, the love and support from all of you is overwhelming. You have changed my life in such a positive way. From students, alumni, parents, and staff, you always have my back. Your love and generosity is something to behold, and I'm very proud to be a McDonald Mustang. You guys have a good night. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan.
Mhm.
Okay, we have some action items. Adoption of the Nebraska Department of Education math standards, Mrs. Carlson and Mrs. Douglas.
Good evening, President Blasey and members of the Board of Education. I think Mrs. Furley is bringing up a document that basically outlines the request this evening. So the Teaching and Learning Department is going to be requesting the adoption of the Nebraska Department of Education math standards that the State Board of Education adopted in September of 2022. The document outlines the Nebraska State Statute 79-760.01, which outlines the State Board of Education's duties for the adoption of academic content standards. The next section outlines the North Platte Public School Board of Education Policy 6004, the curriculum development, which outlines our expectations that our district's academic content standards shall be those required by the Nebraska State Board of Education. Included in the link or included in the document is a direct link to the current mathematics standards for your review. The mathematics standards document is probably 70 plus, close to 70 plus pages. So we weren't gonna read those verbatim for you guys tonight. But that link is there for your perusing. That does outline all of the K through 12 mathematical standards. Also, it was important for us to describe for you the structure of the Nebraska College and Career Ready standards for mathematics, which includes numbers, ratios, and proportions, algebra, geometry, and data. Those are the structural strands that all kindergarten through 12th grade standards fall within. And please note that the ratios and proportions is a new content strand found only in grades 6 and 7. That was a scaffolding strand that they felt was missing at those grade levels. So ratios and proportions are landing in 6th and 7th grade. In addition to that, we've outlined the instructional shifts within the Nebraska College and Career Ready standards for mathematics that were adopted again in 2022. There are 3 major shifts in instruction: focus, coherence, and rigor, of which will be part of our professional development moving forward with our kindergarten through 12th grade mathematics teachers. And so at this time, we are asking the Board of Education to adopt the Nebraska State mathematical standards that were presented to the State Board in the fall of 2022. But of course, we're open for any questions that you might have as well.
Can you describe the process? Because my understanding is for like a lot of the like math, for example, the state comes down with these standards, and then how do we decide that we can either adopt those standards or something that's equally as rigorous? Is that right?
Correct.
How do we decide if we're going to adopt the state standards or if we want to do something on our own?
So the Nebraska Department of Education recruits teachers from across the state of Nebraska who are math teachers or have a passion for teaching math. So that ranges from anywhere from kindergarten to 12th grade. We did have one of our local mathematics teachers serve on that committee to rewrite the Nebraska standards. Sasha Welch led some of the rewriting at the state level.
So I believe our best is to put our faith in our teachers across the state of Nebraska. Oftentimes, you will see that their work is in alignment with the Common Core standards. And so they always work on making sure that there is a crosswalk of alignment with the core standards and what Nebraska educators believe our standards should be. Our choice is to adopt these or to write our own at the local level, which would be a huge endeavor. And so to place the faith in our Nebraska educators who spend several meetings and summertime work coming together to write those standards is pretty crucial in what we end up adopting at the end.
I think that makes sense. And very neat that Mrs. Welch was part of it. That's
Yeah.
cool.
We're very fortunate. A lot of our teachers do step forward. In fact, we just sent out an email to the staff. The NDE is always recruiting local educators to participate in various adoption, rewriting of standards. Currently right now, they are actually seeking teachers in the 3 content areas of math, reading, and science to work on assessment, which is a huge buzzword for us, as well as in teaching and learning. So they are recruiting local teachers from districts to help write standard bank questions for our assessment platform.
Can you talk a little bit about also the process after, should this pass tonight, what that looks like in our district as far as?
Yeah, so really it begins our work with our math curriculum writing teams. So we start that work in the spring and summer this year. And we start with just educating on the shifts and how the standards have changed. And so we do a lot of work, just professional development on how the standards have changed and what that means for us. And then we look at high quality materials and which ones would align best to that process, and then do a field test and eventually adopt. So it's a year-long process after this.
Do you want to maybe mention, since this is kind of a new relationship, our relationship with ESU 16 and how we're working with, particularly in the areas of English language arts and math?
Yeah, so we have worked with Mackenzie Karstens through our ELA adoption work this past year. And we will start our work with Lane Swedberg. He is the math curriculum specialist at the ESU 16 locally. And they really bring a deeper level of expertise in a specific content area. So they are really good professional development coordinators for our district. And our teachers can really lean on to very intentional expertise. So anything you want to add? Okay.
I would move to approve the education standards, the Nebraska Department of Education math standards as presented.
Second.
Can I get roll, Sheila?
Angela Levy.
Aye.
Joanne Landry.
Aye.
Steve Ballmer.
Aye.
Cindy O'Connor.
Aye.
Emily Garrett.
Aye.
Shannon Davis.
Aye.
Thank you.
Now get to work.
You don't have to write them now.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, request approval of bid for lighting upgrades at the High School Performing Arts Center. Mr. Simpson?
Thank you. And I'm going to take you through a little bit of history on this so that you get an idea of where I was, or you get into my mind, I guess, if anything, and that's a little bit scary. When Dr. Rhodes came aboard, I sort of went through all the stuff that we were doing in the district, obviously with Adams, with upgrading our clocks at the high school. And then I was talking to him about, we had been in conversation over the last couple of years about getting lighting taken care of in the PAC, and that was my next step. So in the process, when we were starting to evaluate the budget and taking a look at that, I said, I was estimating at that point in time, and right now we have about 450,000 right around in there that we have remaining in the budget that I said I want to allocate toward getting those lights done, because we've done a lot of other facility work at the high school. And we can go out to Bauer Field, we can go inside the building in our gyms, but in the process, that would be our next step to get it taken care of. When we had to set aside our money to make sure that we could get this accomplished. So in that, I have been working with our architect firm, Hughley and Associates, to get drawings ready to go, and then sitting down with our performing arts staff to let them know what we're going to be doing. And then in the process, getting those out to bid and getting it back. We put it out to bid. Two electrical contractors chose not to bid. They have either more work committed, or they don't have the expertise or knowledge to get it taken care of. So in that, you're seeing a bid from Halls Electric for $718,000. Now, as I said, we have money allocated from this year's budget, but because of product availability and getting them in, the anticipated timeline will get them in sometime. Right now, we're going to say the 1st of November, so that we can get them, get everything in and get it ready to go. So now I've spanned 2 fiscal years, so then I know I need to allocate some money in next year's budget for this project. So with the two combined, we should be able to get this taken care of, improve our performing arts center. And I can look across at Skip, when we built this, 20 years ago, we thought we were state of the art. Now, 20 years later, obviously we need to step it up once again. Part of the process is to put in new lighting in the seating area. Then we're going to put in a new bank of lights in moving it back one cloud, so that we can address the lighting on the stage, and then obviously stage lighting accordingly. With that, they're contracting with Heartland Theatrical Company so that we can get that all the lighting programmed accordingly, so that as we have, as Joanne mentioned, our musical coming up, or other performances such as choir or band, or even Miss Nebraska, as they come in this summer, will come into a very nice facility as we have. So with that, we're trying to get this upgraded. So you get a long report of what we're going to do. So if we can get it in by November 1, we have now sat down once again with our high school administration and fine arts people and saying, if we get this in, can we get in between November, December, and part of January? Because it'll be about a 45-day installation project. And they were more than willing to say yes. We just have to work with various other entities, such as our community college or Fox Theater or wherever else, to move our venues there, still keeping in mind that we want to host or have our Christmas concerts to anything else, but we just don't have, if we can get in there and get that taken care of, that would be great. But Halls Electric has to rent a lift that will have to take seats out so that they can get all the lights in the main area taken care of, and then obviously hang the new set of lights for our stage. So it's a very time intensive process to get it taken care of, but once we get it done, as we've seen some of our other areas in the school, will vastly improve what we're doing. So that's been the process of going up to try to get the lighting into our PAC.
Question?
It's very much needed. As you said, it's 20 years old. I was in there doing plays for the first 10 years. I can tell you the very first play we did in there in the fall when we moved in, we did not have curtains, and we only had basic lighting because they had just finished part of the theater, and the seats went in 2 weeks prior to the show going on. At that time, Dan Twarling was the principal, and we had talked about if they weren't ready, we would have done it in the commons area. But yeah, but you couldn't really tell that there weren't curtains or those type of things. But the advances, just like anything else that they have done in 20 years for lighting and sound and everything else, is just immense. The first board that we had for lighting was about as big as one of these tables. and now it's this. So just can tell you exactly the changes that it's made, and our students deserve it.
Yes, exactly.
I had a question here, Stuart, and I missed this in subcommittee, so I apologize. On page 3, I think it is, where it lists the alternate #1 price there. Could you explain to us what that is? Because I see the base bid price and then I saw that in a couple places and I wasn't sure what would be the variable there.
Yeah, as we were looking at the lighting for the stage, we were talking about moving it back a cloud and then getting either LED or the standard lighting in. And I was always saying, if we get LED, that's going to, #1, last a little bit longer. Plus, the amount of light that we'll have on the stage will be appropriate. But we said, why don't you give it as an alternate so that we can see if we don't want it in there? Well, looking at the price, that the 718 includes 119. We really wanted to say it's very important for our students as we talk about, getting that into the Performing Arts Center. So we said, we'll leave that 119 in there because we feel getting #1 in LED, the longevity, and then what we need for our students on the stage was important. So that's what you're seeing on that 119. Other questions?
I think it's just important to note too, I mean, we talked about this in our subcommittee meeting, but I mean, this facility is used for so many things. When we look around the district, I mean, we have our, anytime we have an assembly or we have it in there, we have our, I know a lot of the in-service or the get your teach on type stuff happens there. And, the community uses it for Miss Nebraska and other things like that. So it is a great facility and we need to make sure we're keeping good care of it. So
well, and I can look at Skip when we moved all of our elementary programs up there because first of all, trying to move them into a multi-purpose room at an elementary was hard, plus getting them into the building and everything else. And I know no matter what, all those schools coming up there to get into there and have a better performance really sparks the interest of students as they move up to middle school and high school also. So
I just want to say too that I appreciate that you did take some time to visit with the teachers that use that space the most, and that just to ensure that they're getting something that is going to be useful to them instead of lights that we install and then maybe don't use. And so I think it's good, and I agree with Matt that it's a facility that's it's one of the bigger spaces to hold a lot of, to hold a big event, and so we do want to continue to make sure that it's one of the pride pieces of our community. So
Stuart, the other thing is halls. They've done projects for the district before, and we're obviously confident that they've got a lot of manpower, and this is a big project. So I know I'm glad that we have a local company that's able to actually provide the service for us.
well, and I think it, when we bid McDonald, we talked about the price of the electrical there, and we had between Platte Valley and Halls Electric, and came 3,000 less at Platte Valley, which says so obviously Halls was sitting out there would like to work for the schools in some capacity. So #1, this worked out well. They can come in and still do something for the schools. And then second of all, it's just, they have the resources now because, once somebody commits, you don't have it. So they have the resources to come back in and work for us too. So it's pleased that we can work with local contractors to get this taken care of.
I move that we approve the bid for lighting upgrades at the high school Performing Arts Center.
second.
Sheila?
Aye.
Aye.
Cindy O'Connor.
Aye.
Emily Garrett.
Aye.
Matthew Pearson.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. I guess we can just leave now, right? Okay. Request approval of superintendent contract.
Do you want me to go ahead or do you?
Well, I would just thank you, President Blasey, Executive Council, and the rest of the board. I've said several times that coming back to North Platte was coming home. And it's an honor and privilege to serve this district. The transparency that Sheila has up, of course, this is part of state statute, so we've met those requirements. That was posted on our district website, as well as the potential contract. And with that, I'd turn it over to Stuart.
No, that's what I was going to say. Part of the district, a school district's responsibilities have a superintendent transparency to be posted on the website 3 days before and then afterwards. Normally for North Platte Public Schools, we have always set aside and just left it up there because it's just transparency and then there's no question about it. Second of all, when you look at the increase for Dr. Rhodes, it aligns with what we did with our teachers. So at this point in time, the increase was similar to what we were doing with teachers across the board. We followed the policy that is set aside. I think Matt mentioned 1010 and 1011. So that we can correlate what we're doing with our policy. So board continually monitors that. I hate to say it, but according to policy, we'll turn around and do it, later this year again. But that's just the cycle of what we have to deal with. But I want to reach out and say thank you very much to the board and to the executive committee also. I mean, I know it was a process of negotiations, but I knew where we needed to be. And so thank you.
Can you describe the kind of process of how we get the information from you as far as the array and those kind of things, just so we can describe how we are able to come to our decision?
Business officials around the state usually work with Kearney Public Schools, and they take into account salary and other benefits that are coming along. We disregard FICA and retirement because obviously that's a federal mandate. So we just look at the salary and other compensation that administrators get. Kearney Public Schools puts that together. They get it back out to us usually about the end of November. And then what I do is I go through and scrub that data, because we look at our array schools as we negotiate with our teachers. Our array of Scottsbluff, Lexington, Kearney, Hastings, Columbus, Norfolk, and Fremont. I got to go through my head, but I try to pull them out so that we can, number one, not only look at our administrators, but what we're doing with our superintendent. And then obviously I try to pull in another district just to see where they are as a separate calculation. So I look at South Sioux because the way our enrollment is right now, we used to look at other districts, but I want to align us with at least number one, locality, but maybe pulling in another school district just to say, okay, are we okay or we're not? And when we were looking at that, we knew where Dr. Rhodes sat as far as our array was concerned in comparison to the average. So we don't look at what Scottsbluff gets or we can, but more along the lines of where does that whole array sit as far as the midpoint, so that we can say we're doing a similar task to what we're doing when and I look over at Skip when we're negotiating with our teachers. And so we try to hold a standard as we go into negotiations, whether it's for our administrators or for our teachers. And then I usually get it back, when I get it back, I let Dr. Rhodes know where we're standing. And then obviously we talk a little bit about it in our subcommittees. And when I mentioned that we're 6 months out, we're going to probably talk about it in October. Obviously, because as Dr. Rhodes mentions, part of policy says that you have to evaluate the superintendent once a year. That goes in December, and then in the process we follow the rest. So it's not like it becomes a cycle that we get into, and hopefully this next year as we get into a cycle, then it's a full year cycle. But I know with the first year with Dr. Rhodes, we have other pieces into place that we have to accomplish in the process.
Can I get a motion?
I would move to approve the superintendent contract for 2023 through 2025 as presented and as published pursuant to state statute.
Second.
Sheila, roll.
Skip Ballford,
Aye.
Cindy O'Connor.
Aye.
Blake Harris,
Aye.
Matthew Peterson.
Aye.
Angela Blaze.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we have our future board calendar. The most recent thing would be the NASB Legislative Advocacy Day on April 17th. And then we go into June with leadership workshop, the golf outing, school leaders and law conference, and then August for the area membership meeting. And then we're into the fall. Thank goodness. So. Otherwise, can I get a motion for adjournment?
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Sheila, roll.
Cindy O'Connor.
Aye.
Councilor Emily Garrett.
Aye.
Matthew Peterson.
Aye.
Angela Blaze.
Aye.
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 Thank you.